First question is from B. Madursky 2009. What is the best way to get a flat stomach so I don't have to suck it in all the time?
Oh, yeah.
I think of that commercial right away. What's the one where you guys remember that commercial? Where
the guy sucks it in.
Yeah, the two guys. Yeah, they're at like the pool and like a girl walks by.
And then they relax.
Yeah. What was that? What was that commercial for?
I think it was a beer commercial, wasn't it?
No.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a beer
it was
commercial.
like Bud Light or something.
Yeah. All right, step one, be lean. Okay, can't do anything about body fat around your belly. So obviously you got to be lean, step one. Step two, here's one nobody ever considers. Avoid foods that you may have intolerances to, because that will make your belly distend. It'll cause bloat. And so many people, I used to have so many clients that accepted this as a part of life that they didn't realize that this is not supposed to happen, right? You're not supposed to, after a meal, you're not supposed to sit back like, and I thought this was normal too, because my grandfather, my dad, everybody, right? They'd eat a big ass bowl of pasta, big bunch of bread with sauce, whatever. At the end of dinner, they're both sitting back, unbutton their jeans.
Yeah. You got to take like 2 belt loops off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's just.
And my grandfather used to do this. He'd come over and be like, he'd hit the side of his belly and be like, look how hard it is. It's all muscle.
Yeah.
That's not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to bloat like that. So you're probably eating something that you're intolerant to. So pay attention to the food you're eating. You should feel after you eat fine. You should not feel any bloat. And that makes a big, big difference. All right, now let's talk about exercises, right? That's the part everybody's interested in. What exercises can I do? You can definitely train your abs and your obliques, but those muscles aren't really responsible for bringing in the midsection. In fact, when you suck in your midsection, the muscle that you're using is called the TVA, right? The transverse abdominis. This muscle is like a weight belt around your body, and simply doing what are called vacuum poses, which is similar to sucking in your stomach, except you're really bringing it in as hard as you can and squeezing for time, that'll strengthen the muscle that brings everything in. And if you want to add resistance, not really many ways you could do it other than getting on all fours, so that gravity adds a little bit of resistance and gives you a little bit more tension when you pull it in.
I want to stress the diet thing again, because something that I didn't know this until I got to a place where I was really, really lean, but to notice this. But I think there's a lot of people that eat foods that inflame them and retain water, and they don't even realize it.
Totally.
Because it's not bad enough to cause any like crazy symptoms where they have maybe diarrhea or they have stomach cramping or but that's like one of the first things you see is just like bloat. Like you get a little bit of bloat or water retention going on. And sometimes it's just subtle enough that you don't really notice it, except for that, I feel like I just can't ever see my abs or get lean enough. And so I would actually do like an elimination diet or assess some of the, because I've seen that too, where I've taken a client, figured out what the offender is, and then get rid of it. And then that alone already makes their stomach flat all the time without even doing any ab work or getting any leaner.
Totally.
Just simply assessing what foods they could be eating that could be causing the problem.
Well, it's not like a humongous factor, but I have also noticed too just how people like hold themselves in posture when they're standing up. And I would always kind of talk to Courtney about this too, because she would get in that problem like, I just feel like so, fat today or whatever, and typically it was because like her posture was just like off in her hips in her the way that she had this excessive arch really didn't put her in a position where it felt like her stomach was flat and she was presenting herself well. And once we started working on that and just like noticing that, it was a lot different. And then on top of that, the bloat, both those things in combination really reduced that visual look of like, I feel like I'm like loose and flat.
I actually think
today.
that's a great point, and even more common than you're saying.
Yeah, strong anterior tilt.
Yeah, I have an anterior pelvic tilt. That is exact. Even when I'm lean, I still kind of push my stomach out because it's so excessive. And working on that flattens the stomach out, because you think the hips rotate out like this.
It pushes the stomach forward.
Yeah, it pushes the stomach forward. So even if you get lean, you always kind of have the stomach kind of going out like this, where by you getting the hips in the right position or neutral, it kind of lines up the spine and makes the stomach look a lot flatter. So that actually is more common than I think you think. And between that and maybe eating something, because I imagine there's somebody who's asking this question isn't somebody who's 60 pounds overweight. I mean, because I think the answer is
know
like,
what that is.
Yeah.
I think
you're aware
obvious.
of this is normally people who are like, man, Adam, I feel like I'm in pretty good shape, but I still have this kind of pooch going on right here, and I can't ever seem to see my abs. And a lot of times that's either the bloat, like we're talking about, or what you're saying, Justin, right now is the, your hips and your pelvic tilt that's caught pushing the stomach out.
Yeah, and this is like when people will fast for a day and be like, oh my God, my stomach's so flat. And it's because they didn't eat the food that causes the bloat. The most common foods that cause bloat in people, and this isn't everybody, it's just the most common ones, right? Gluten-containing foods, dairy is the other one. And then some people do this just from lots of carbohydrates. Gluten for me really does this big time. Now here's a funny thing. Beer, right? People say, oh, beer belly. Beer is a gluten-containing alcohol.
Yep.
So you've got the alcohol plus the gluten.
Yeah, it's a double whammy.
And if you have an intolerance to gluten and you drink beer, you may notice you get this, bloat.
Another sign that this might be you is if you're somebody who sees such a drastic difference between going to bed and then waking up in the morning.
Yes.
Right? So after that's all been digested and kind of gone through and stuff like that, inflammation comes down, you wake up and it's like, whoa, like night and day difference. Your stomach's really flat in the morning, but then as soon as you start eating foods today, it's not like that anymore. If that's a really extreme difference, this is also another sign that this is probably what your issue is related to diet more so than it is exercise or not quite being lean enough.